This video will show you how to diagnose a dryer that's overheating or getting too hot. It's usually caused by an airflow problem. Safety first, so always disconnect power before servicing any electrical appliance. And do remember to be careful when you start taking the machines apart, because the internal edges are very sharp. They will cut you, so be careful not to get cut, and just make sure you've got that unplugged before you start working on it. Okay, this dryer, I'm going to go ahead and start it up here and show you. But I've got a thermometer to measure the temperature with, but it's getting a bit too hot, and so I need to figure out why it's getting too hot and fix it, of course. And just so you know, I already actually checked the thermostats. They seem to be opening and closing okay, but just the dryer's getting too hot. So I don't think the thermostats are the problem. I even tried swapping them out, and it didn't make any difference. It still got just as hot. I checked the heating element already as well to make sure it wasn't grounded. There's nothing like that. Another dead giveaway was the heating element glows way too red or too hot, which means there's not enough air being drawn in across the heating element coils. So I've got my thermometer here, and I'm checking the temperature of the exhaust. It should be around 155 when it clicks off the thermostat and then start dropping. So the thermostat is kicking it off actually a little bit higher than that. I'll go ahead and let you just listen to and watch the video of me checking it. It's not getting any hotter. It's staying right at 160. Now usually when you have an airflow problem, it's going to be something related to some kind of seal. Either the drum seal, which has a seal on the back of the drum, and of course on the front of the drum too, actually. And then there's the seals on this air lint housing or lint tube. There's two seals on it. And well, let's go ahead and finish watching the temperature readout here. And it just clicked off about 165. Well, you can see there, now it was at 165. I'm gonna put it on the inside now. Close the door, leave it for a second and see how hot it is inside. We'll try putting the thermostat in there. It didn't work. It's way down. Didn't go any hotter in there, but I can tell you this is all very hot to the touch. Checking the door seal around the door also is a good idea. So it's overheating slightly. Well, slightly or any amount at all over. Okay. It's too much for me. So I've got to figure out where my air leak is. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pop the top. And as you can see here, there's a seal at the back of the drum that goes all the way where it rides on the back bulkhead. You want to make sure that it's intact and not bad or got gaps or broken or torn away, and replace it if it's bad. And then you want to check the blower wheel to make sure it's working good. Now when I removed the lint housing to check the blower wheels, when I found the gaskets were bad. So here I'm going to show you the first things to do to take off that lint trap. You got to take the lint trap out. There's two screws there that hold the right there. You go ahead and remove both those with a Phillips head screwdriver. And once those screws are removed, then you can turn the dryer around. I actually tilt it to make it easier to access it. You don't have to do that, but there's four screws down at the bottom that hold that lint tube to the blower housing. So remove all four of those. They're 1/4 inch screws, and you'll want to take those off and be careful not to get cut, of course, on these sharp edges that are right next to it. And I use an extension. Most tools won't, like an air tool, won't fit up in there anyway, especially in between this gap here. And you have to be real careful when the screw's about to come off not to drop it down inside the machine. So reach in there and get a hold of it before you take the tool off of it. Otherwise you'll be fishing for screws. So get that all removed, and then once you remove this lint trap housing, you can check the blower wheel, make sure it's not bad. If it rounds out on the inside of the blower wheel, it won't spin as fast as it should. It'll be all loose, and you can rock it back and forth and all that. I already checked it, it was good on this one. But now, with the problem I did find when I took this housing off, the foam seal that goes there that seals the air on both the bottom and up there at the top of the bulkhead are completely gone. So they need to be replaced. $347,139 for the bottom. The one that goes there, $339956. Now I gave you the part numbers for this particular dryer here. Yours, go by model number and get the ones right for your particular dryer. Most Whirlpool and Kenmore this style dryer will use the same part, but if you have a different brand, it may, or a different design, the Kenmore will use different seals in different places. So you have to go by what you actually need, of course. Remove the old tape if possible, the old foam, whatever's left of it, and of course get a rag or something and clean that away. You want to get a nice clean surface to put the new one on with. It's pretty easy to install this. You just peel the backing off and put it in place, and kind of peel the backing off as you go. And I go all the way around pressing it down in place as I go, so it's not falling in the way or anything like that, or getting off track. And you can see where the old one was still, so that gives you a good idea exactly where to put the new one. When you get down towards the end, if you want to stretch it if you need to make sure the ends are going to meet up, so you don't want to leave an air gap. It'll be sucking in air and continuing to have that thermostat read at the wrong temperature. So make sure they meet end to end. And then go down here on the bottom, we'll do the same thing. Try to get that old foam. There's still a little bit left on this one. And besides that, go ahead and clean it as well with a rag. Make sure you get it as clean as you can so you have a good surface to mount the new one on. So what was happening with this, it was just drawing air in on the back side of the bulkhead that was not ever going across the heating element coils and through the drum. And so that air was mixing with the hot air coming in from the heating element, and of course then it gets to that thermostat down there right well between my hands are, and that thermostat is your operating thermostat. It's not going to read right when it has that fresh air or room temperature air getting sucked in right there at the last second. It changes, what the actual temperature of the air is, and it won't cycle at the right temperatures when that happens. It causes the heating element to be getting too hot because it's not having enough air drawn across it, and the interior of the drum gets too hot, and you don't want that. It'll be shrinking your clothes and getting super hot. It's never a good thing. Eventually it could get too hot and pop those fuses. You do have the backup fuse there. If it gets too hot, it will pop a fuse, but you don't want it to ever get to that point, of course. So go all the way around, tacking it down in place. I'm going to make sure those ends are going to meet up again. And put the rest down. There it is. You go back to installing and reinstall this. You want to make sure you clean the inside of it out very good too. Any lint blockage you have down there will reduce the air flow. I always clean these before I refurbish them anyway, so it's already cleaned. You have to kind of tilt it in and put the top in first between the little slot there, and then align the bottom 4 holes on the lint trap housing with the holes, of course, on the face of the blower housing. Let's get those screws started. When you install these screws, you want to make sure that you get them snug but don't over tighten them and crank down on them, because this sheet metal will easily strip out. I just usually start them by hand, so that way everything's aligned. Of course, these two on this side over here, especially that top one, you have to reach in there, hold it on there, and get it started. And I didn't even bother showing putting on the bottom one and tightening them up, but just put all 4 of them on and just put them on there snug. And don't over tighten or super tight on them, because you'll wind up stripping them if you do that. And I know I didn't show all of it, but the other thing I did is once I set it back down, of course I put the screws back on the top of the deck to screw it back in place as well. And of course reinstalled the lint trap, because you have to have the lint trap in place as well. It'll draw in air where the lint trap goes and give you incorrect readings as well. So you have to have the lint trap in when you're running the dryer. Okay, it already clicked out at 145. See, it just came back on. Okay, it just clicked off again. Down below 140. Okay, that's down to 130 and it just clicked back on. It's coming down to 140 now. So it is cycling now, and not as high as it was. So I think that'll be all right now. But that just goes to show you what difference an air leak will cause.